Greetings once again, heroes and villains out there. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with another chapter of My Hero Academia. In the previous chapter, though, we saw the startling backstory of All For One and his brother Yoichi. How they, in fact, were the very first people to ever receive quirks in the world. Born to a prostitute mother who died quickly upon giving birth out in the woods. You know, happy stuff. She actually had the spear-like bone ability, which was the very first quirk All For One ever stole, which he used to grapple onto his dead mother's bosom to suckle the very life out of her, while also holding on to his twin brother, something that the young Yoichi remembered years later, wanting to believe that that was the glimpse of goodness in his brother, although, from another point of view, that might just be his brother's greedy nature. Later, the luminescent baby was born, and mass hysteria broke out, with people seeing quirks as a disease. In the chaos, All For One grew up believing that any who could not do for him were better off dead, and he would kill indiscriminately. Yoichi, who hadn't received as much nutrition growing up, was weak and frail, and couldn't do much for his brother, so his brother treated him terribly. But Yoichi expanded his mind, especially when it came to comic books. He even wanted to be a hero, and tried to use the tales of heroism to stir the goodness he saw in his brother. It was 3 years after this point that All For One returned to his brother with the powers of the luminescent baby, who had grown into a popular figure, obviously just out of spite. And the luminescent baby was a shining beacon for society, wanting to call for a peaceful society and the coexistence of those without quirks and those with. But All For One was also inspired by the tales of heroism that his brother so loved, but he was inspired by the villain. Whereas the luminescent baby, luminescent man, was a symbol of hope, All For One wanted to be a symbol of dread, of fear, of dictatorship. We also see the events that followed Kudo freeing Yoichi from All For One's captivity, and it was the very act of his brother being taken away from him that seemingly caused All For One to kill his own blood. But is that all there is to it? Was it mistake, rage, or just malice? Join me as I find out, won't you? We pick up All For One having destroyed his brother in a brutal, visceral scene. Much like Shigaraki's Disintegrate, All For One had utterly torn his brother asunder. The most intact part of him left, a single hand. The narration. This is My Hero Academia number 408. The Eyes Tell All. Narration. He named his brother Yoichi, with the kanji character for bestow, and one, because his brother was the very first thing given to him in life. We see blood of his brother splatter upon All For One's face as the chunks of what's left of his brother fall into the sewerways. Kudo falling to the ground, being helped up by the eventual third user of All For One, as we see other members of the resistance running. The narration continues saying, at this point, it had been 2 months since his brother had walked away from him. Really? We see the third user get ready to unleash his Fajin ability, while Kudo, still on the ground, the same blood splattered upon his face, locks eyes with All For One. The narration continues saying, he locked eyes with the young man who'd stolen away his brother, that precious possession of his. From birth, there'd been no shine to his own eyes, as if they were clouded by a thin membrane. The sight of the young man was never reflected in those eyes. Yeah, we see slight tears well up in Kudo's eyes, as All For One is reflected in his eyes, but nothing is reflected in All For One. We later see in what almost looks like New York. Probably not. But All For One, with the hand of his brother now being retrofitted to preserve it, the only thing remaining of his brother. God, I never even thought that was the remaining hand that he had given to Shigaraki. All For One looks at the hand and laments to himself, thinking, the meta ability I thought I had granted him is gone. The narration says he had fostered a power upon Yoichi, despite the latter's insistent refusal to accept that which had been stolen from others or used to force others into servitude. All for One thinks, I've never observed such a thing before. My own power confirms that there's no meta ability left in Yoichi. I used to wonder if I'd somehow stolen his actual power when I was too young to be aware of it, but no further examination showed that he did have one, an insignificant, non-functioning bit of trash that my own power couldn't even recognize as a proper factor, as if the factor never quite took form when it should have, due to malnourishment. Did it somehow activate itself? We then pick up with Kudo and the eventual third user out at some hideout. The third is at a computer terminal typing away saying, hey boss, that day when he gave us a thrashing, All for One didn't manage to catch you, right? Kudo says, give it a rest, Bruce. Bruce is his name. Nice. Finally, I can stop calling him the third user. Kudo says, just give me the results. Spit it out. Bruce tells him, you mentioned something about your body feeling off since then, and I'm surprised you even noticed. You've got two factors in you. Your original one plus some kind of uniformed dud. Unformed dud. Yeah. Kudo looks to his hand thinking, right, I thought that might be the case. And at the same time, All for One thinks the meta ability I granted him was essentially absorbed by his own to make up for what it lacked, stolen in a sense. Kudo thinks to Yuichi's words saying, I couldn't put a stop to my brother. He only sees other human beings as playthings or as prizes to be won. Well, All for One thinks of his brother's words saying, you kept me alive. If only you could have found even a bit of compassion for others. And while Kudo says, it's like within me Yoichi's will, while All for One finishes saying, questioning, still lives on? And Yoichi's words saying, the ability to both give and take could have been the kindest, most charitable power the world's ever known. We then see a montage of All for One and his journey through the years. First, his killing of Kudo, strangling him out, as he thinks, my crocodile tears served to cause confusion and dismay. All that I loathed and everything I coveted, I had manipulated and corrupted to make it all my own. We then see Bruce with the Fajin, only to have been killed by massive screw-like protrusion. Jeez, but still the quirk eluded All for One. We see him build a society, the meeting with the doctor, All for One managing to capture Banjo, but he tried to take the quirk and he couldn't, as he thinks, yet you never behave as I wish. His murder of N. I guess we jumped over Hikage because All for One probably never even saw how he died. And giving up the ability to Nana, and he used his smokescreen to hide Nana. So All for One thinks, I only wanted to make you mine. I hunt and pursue, yet you slip through my grasp. Ooh. And we even see the moment that All Might managed to just utterly destroy All for One's head. Jeez, that's brutal. Looks like it was a devastating battle. But we see as his body was in the morgue, we see Dr. Garaki approaching it, and suddenly we pick up in present day. All for One raging and mutating out of control as he shouts, you're to blame for it all, Kudo. All for One thinks Kudo's bloodline was ended, leaving nothing to chance. I even eliminated every woman and child he'd been close to. Gee, if Kudo's blood somehow runs through the boy's vein, surely I would have sensed it that first time. And he remembers when he transported Bakugo towards him. But as Bakugo flies through the sky with his quirk, All for One thinks it's all in the eyes. Back then his eyes didn't yet have that look to them, just an incidental resemblance, and I'm convinced that a willful resolve resembling Kudo's has crossed time and space to thwart me. I remember there was a theory that Bakugo had somehow traveled through time and had become the second user of One for All. And it's like reincarnation, baby. I mean, it might just be the way this has played out. Oh, that would be wild if it's just Kudo just reincarnated just to kick his ass. I don't know. I mean, it's more that All for One is just really trying to find reason in something that's not really there, but even still, All for One thinks to himself, forcibly warping him away won't do much to tear this thorn from my side, because the only valuable warp point are All Might and Tumra, who are nearby to start with. I couldn't afford to dredge out this battle, as it would shrink me further. Even when I do reach Tomura, conflict is inevitable, as he's already rejected me once. I must save all my remaining strength to succeed in that transfer. He then tells Bakugo, such was my thinking, but no, enough of this. Killing you, reaching my goal, executing the transfer, all are one and the same. Jeez. Okay, this is some Akira shit going on here. And within One for All, Yoichi senses it. He tells Deku, here he comes, as All for One just expands. Even the visages of the people whose quirks he's stolen, you can see them all just amalgamated in that mess of a body. Jesus, Horikoshi going wild. As All for One uses Omni Factor Unleash. All for One goal. That's good. Oh man, I gotta love this. This is horrifying. This is horrifying to look at. And as this giant mass rockets towards Bakugo, as he's just propelling and this wave of destruction is just following in the wake. This is gonna be insane animated. Jeez. The little bit of an edge shot on the rooftop with All Might says, a massive energy surge to fuel his propulsion? Does he intend to claim victory with this single burst? All Might thinks this will revert him back to a baby. He's bet the whole shebang on this. All Might shouts out to Bakugo, dodge it, kid! And Bakugo floats in front of this massive blast as he says, some genius I am. How could I ever hope to beat that? Gee, I gotta admit, this is getting intense. Like, dang. Man, I gotta tell you, this is some wild stuff. But I am kinda loving it. Just, because All for One isn't a person who's used to actually needing to try this hard. And he was already kind of sent a little over the edge by his defeat at the hands of All Might. Like, he never thought he'd actually lose, and All Might essentially killed him. It's only because of what Garaki did that he came back. So All for One planned a little harder. And he's just like, oh, okay, I messed up there. I didn't think someone could actually take me, but this time around I came with a plan. And he's planned, and he's planned, and he's planned, and he's planned. But now someone's in his way yet again. All these factors, and he just can't get what he wants. And he's throwing a tantrum now. That's the thing. He's so used to being able to win at some point, to getting everything he ever wanted. Essentially, his whole backstory is just telling us he's a child. He's a child. He has no maturity to him. He doesn't know how to just not get what he wants. And that's the biggest factor in his downfall. He'll rip, he'll rage, he'll lash out, doing whatever he can to claim whatever victory he can. And when he can't, he'll just grow more and more angry, incensed, and bewildered by the fact that he can't get one over. But it's like, you've had like over 100 years of winning. You've had decades of winning. You had to lose at some point. I kind of like this. I kind of like where we've been going with a lot of this. And man, that panel of him just looking like a full-on Akira moment, just, oh man. Horikoshi's having some fun drawing this stuff. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you think of the life and times of All for One? All the people he's killed, the brother he's abused, the machinations. You ready to see it brought to an end? I think I am. Finally getting his backstory and understanding just what kind of person he is deep down. It's just like, okay, I'm ready for him to be defeated now. But honestly, I kind of love the idea that his end is brought just by his own hands. That it's not so much about needing to beat him. I mean, he's essentially beat himself. Do I really believe that Bakugo is in some way related to En? I can kind of believe that. Somewhere maybe down the line, some little bit of genetics worked in there. Shoot, I do even love the idea that maybe it's reincarnation, baby. That would be fun too. But I'm interested to see what happens next. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye.